Samwell Tarley stood before the whispering door of the seneschal's court, the torch in his hand sputtering as though unwilling to linger in the damp corridor. No sigil marked this ancient portal. Only a faint groove ran around its frame, a reminder that secrets did not merely hide in Old Town. They waited, patient as stone, for one keener than most to unseal them. The hour was past moonrise, and the high tower bells had ceased their tolling. Yet Sam's pulse sounded louder than any bell within the confines of his chest. It was his third night returning here, and still he hesitated to enter, though all he risked was a reprimand. Or so he told himself. In truth, far more than censure awaited within. The fragments of vellum he had uncovered, unsigned, half-smeared by candle wax, hinted at a chronicle older than the oldest annals, penned in a crabbed script that made his eyes throb. That chronicle, he suspected, was his key. The path by which a self-doubting boy from Horn Hill might become Archmaester indeed, not merely in ambition. He held his breath, pressed his palm to the silent latch and pushed. Dust rose, silvered in torchlight. A draft whispered across his cheeks, cool as the sea-born winds that clung to the citadel's upper galleries. Even after weeks returned from the wars of ice and fire, to which he had been but an awkward footnote, Sam felt the chill differently these days, as though some remnant of the North's long night followed him southward. He tried to dismiss the notion. Superstition had no place in a seat of learning. Beyond the threshold lay a reading room no novice was ever meant to enter. 6 long trestle tables, mounded with scrolls too delicate to survive the citadel's common air. The records had been brought from vaults sealed since before Aegon's landing, older, Archmaester Valen insisted, than the Undull invasion itself. 5 lanterns glimmered above like captured stars, their blaze kept purposely wan, lest sudden brightness erase ink that had outlived kingdoms. Sam set his torch in a sconce, let the door ease shut, and drew the night's quarry from the folds of his woolen sleeve. A scrap, no longer than a child's hand, that crackled when he breathed upon it. Upon one side, 7 lines of glyphs flowed like ice snakes. He had traced them earlier against a sheaf of parchment, matching each curve to the codices Marwyn once taught him to read. They were Valyrian, yes, but older than the Freehold. Stiff with consonants the Dragon Lords abandoned when they learned the speech of flame. The 7th line alone he had rendered in full. Roughly it proclaimed, "Where ice remembers, fire forgets. Where dawn fails, dusk awakens. Where all roads end, the cold ones wait." The cold ones. Others. A shiver ran his spine slower than melting frost. He turned the scrap over, reading it again, lips shaping the alien words. The glyphs seemed to stir in the lantern's sway, as if each ink curve possessed a life restrained for millennia. Yet what truly unsettled him was not the text's warning. It was the half-erased sigil below it, a ringed globe bisected by sword and comet. That sign had appeared nowhere in Maester records, and yet once, on the wall, Sam had seen it carved upon a dragonglass arrow half buried in hoarfrost. He sank onto a bench, heart hammering. Gilly's face flashed into his thoughts, pale as new snow beneath Craster's keep. He thought of her downriver, lodged in an inn beside the Honeywine with little Sam tucked to her breast. If Sam truly meant to ascend the chain of history and lore, he must first prove himself worthy, and that proof lay somewhere within these scrolls. Before dawn, he must glean one truth no maester living possessed. Otherwise, the assembly would never relinquish the ringed collar of Archmaester Brose, now vacant these 7 months. He reached for the nearest roll, easing its blackened ribbon free. Ink flaked beneath his thumb. The first column showed a map, not of Westeros as known, but of a landmass smothered by swirling lines that might have been glaciers or tides. At its center burned a single rune, shaped like a spear point overlaid upon a crescent moon. In the margin, a finger-length aside, were numerals reckoned in the old counting of Lorith. 8,212. Years? Moons? The Valyrians seldom bothered to clarify. A thud jarred the silence behind him. Sam jerked, nearly spilling the scroll. From the shadow of a colonnade emerged a slim figure in scholar's grays. "You mean to frighten the 7 hell out of me?" Sam murmured, hand upon his chest. "Better fear the hell you loose upon yourself." said All Era's Sand. The Sphinx still, though grown into a taller, sharper-featured man than the youth Sam recalled. A copper lamp swung from his fingers. Trespass carries consequence.
Sam swallowed.
Is it trespass if the seneschal himself bade me continue the late Archmaester's catalogue? These texts are ill-sorted. He forced his breath to steady. I thought to spare the scribes the trouble. All Eras tipped his head cat-like. You stammer yet, but less than before. Still, duplicity sits uneasy upon you. He strode forward, peering at the map. You search the wrong vault if your aim is advancement. The conclave rewards loyalty, not secrets. A loyal maester serves truth, Sam answered, surprising himself. Truth, even when buried. The Sphinx's smile flickered. Some truths bury us in return. He brushed a thumb across the crescent spear rune. You know this mark? I might, Sam hedged. An echo of what the children carved in caves north of the wall. An echo, yes, All Eras murmured, rolling the syllables as if tasting honey. But echoes begin with voices, Sam, and voices leave bones. He set the map aside, unrolling another scroll at random. Look here. A litany of names appeared, each preceded by a tower-shaped sigil. The script shifted abruptly after 4 columns, flowing into a language Sam recognized only by rumor. Skagos Runic, the tongue of stone-born cannibals. Yet there, between marks shaped like talons, he discerned 3 high Valyrian syllables. Iter Talor, Talor asterisk, the old tongue for watcher.
Sam's mouth dried.
Legends speak of watchtowers that ringed the frozen shore beyond Eastwatch, raised by giants before the first long night, whose remains Maester Harmune never discovered. All Eras returned, because they were not towers at all, but ring forts of ice. He touched the scroll's edge, brows knitting. And their builders were no giants. You know this, I suspect. Knowing and proving differ. Proving and surviving differ more. He looked again upon Sam, and his gaze held something like appeal. What is it you truly seek within these pages? Glory or guidance? Sam found no voice to answer. He thought of the wall, Jon Snow's oath-hardened stare, the weight of command descending upon a brother's shoulders. He thought of Bran beyond the shining sea of weirwood leaves, eyes milk-pale and seeing sinuous threads of time. Sam had been messenger and witness, never the shaper of fate. But here, beneath the dome of knowledge, he might yet carve meaning from chaos. I seek a path, he said at last. The North will bleed again unless we understand what truly brought the others forth. His voice steadied as he continued. If these chronicles can reveal their origin, perhaps we may prevent their return. Maybe even heal the wound they left upon the world. All Eras regarded him a moment, lashes veiling the lamplight. Then he nodded silent agreement. Together they labored, hour tasting hour. They cross-matched glyphs against ciphered glossaries, pried brittle wax seals with heated needles, and fitted fragments together like ribs of a long-dead leviathan. The lanterns guttered low, yet with each flicker a clearer shape emerged. A tale older than man or goblet, older than weirwood prayer. Its contours unsettled Sam's heart, for it cast the dawn age in a new and terrible light. One fragment spoke of ice-forged lords covenanted to guard the hinge of sky and sea. Another told of a bargain struck upon a field of bleeding snow, when Moon's daughter knelt before the frost-crowned king. A third hinted at defiance. When men turned from the pact, the watchers descended with spears of night. Dawn tinged the arrow slits crimson while they pored over that last scrap. Candle stubs wavered in pools of wax. Dust motes swirled like flecks of blood. Sam's eyes burned, yet his thoughts raced. This is no mere legend, he whispered. It aligns with tales the free folk tell, of white shadows punishing oathbreakers, not waging senseless war. All Eras nodded grimly. The others may once have been keepers, not killers. Keepers bound by covenant, Sam breathed. And something shattered it. A fist hammered the whispering door. Sam jolted so violently the map tumbled from his lap. Open in the name of the conclave, came a graveled bark. Maester Peristan, the seneschal's owl, whose eyes missed no breach of order. All eras doused his lamp at once. Sam struggled upright, gathering loose parchments. The door burst inward, torches blazing. 2 sworn swords strode through, steel unsheathed. Peristan followed, his fur-lined collar bristling. "What treachery brews by lantern light?" he demanded. "These vaults are barred." Sam's tongue froze. All eras stepped forward. "Archmaester Valen authorized continued catalog," he said evenly. "We intended no harm." "Valen lies in fever sleep," Peristan snapped. "His seal speaks not tonight." Cold eyes swept the scattered scrolls. "Remove yourselves. These relics suffer no novice pawing." Sam drew breath. "I am no novice." He lifted his chain. Rings of lead, copper, silver, and black iron. Proof of study across time and memory and ravenry. Only a single link of Valyrian steel was missing. "I serve the realm's need. The realm's need is order." Peristan advanced, the torch's flames carving hollows on his gaunt cheeks. "And order demands discretion." He gestured to the guards. "Seize the documents. Copyists will determine their worth." Sam's hand tightened on the fragment bearing the crescent spear. If these dull scribes touched it, weeks of careful inference might vanish. Panic rose, yet so too did something steel-hard beneath. Rage at small minds that stifled wisdom. "These pages describe an age before men," he said loudly, words echoing through pillars. "If you bury them again, you doom us to blindness." Peristan snorted. "Doom comes to those who hoard forbidden lore." He seized the scroll between Sam's fingers. "Release this."
Sames gaze flesht to aleras.
The Dornishman circled, as cat to mouse, lamp still dark yet eyes bright with calculation. And then, the torchlight dimmed. A wind, sudden and sharp, gusted through shut windows. Flames guttered blue. The guards shivered, steel singing against their scabbards as though ice caressed the blades. In the hush, a whisper threaded the hall. A voice older than language, rustling like leaves of frozen ash. Symbols upon the map flared a pallid glow. The crescent rune shimmered, casting thin light across Perestan's startled visage. Sam felt the room tilt, as though the very stones of the citadel weighed judgment. A memory not his own brushed his thoughts. Towering spires of frost, under a night sky whirled with green and violet fires. Armored shapes kneeling beneath moon-pale banners while a figure of glittering deathless cold lifted a blade of morning-bright ice. The image vanished. The torches snapped back to orange. All stood stunned, breathing ragged clouds. Perestan's hand recoiled from the scroll as if burned. Alira spoke first, voice low. "You saw it." Not a question. The seneschal's owl trembled, his austere mien fractured. In that crack Sam pressed. "Permit us to continue," he whispered. "And perhaps we learn how to stop such visions from becoming flesh again." Peristan swallowed. Pride warred with fear in his eyes. At last he gestured brusquely. "Lock this chamber. You have 3 nights. Then every fragment passes to my vault." The guards withdrew. Peristan followed, cloak sweeping. The whispering door shut, its echo rolling like thunder. In the hush, all eras released a slow breath. 3 nights, he repeated. "We shall need every heartbeat." Sam nodded, fingers still numb where the rune had glowed. He gathered the map, smoothing its cracked edge with reverence. Above the citadel, dawn bloomed rose gold. Yet in Samwell's mind, frost lingered. The whispers he had heard were not mere wind. They were remembrance. Of vows betrayed, of guardians turned to wraiths when the covenant failed. If men had broken faith once, they could do so again. And if so, the others would not be keepers next time. They would be reckoning. He must learn the covenant's words. He must trace its shattering. He must carve a new chain link from truth itself and clasp it about his neck, not as ornament of mastery, but as bond to those whose cries, frozen in time, yet reached across centuries. For Samwell Tarly, once craven, once cast aside son, now stepped upon a path strewn with icicle daggers and phoenix ashes. Should he falter, dawn itself might dim. Should he stand, He might yet kindle a light to outshine even the high tower's night flame. He turned to all eras, who poised quill above parchment, ready to transcribe the map anew. Together they bent, side by side, as scribes of a secret dawn. And somewhere deep in the citadel's foundations, beyond vault, beyond time, a sound like cracking ice whispered a greeting, as though the past itself had woken to watch. Sequel. Hours into their reprieve, the first of three, Samwell Tarley discovered that silence itself could be treacherous. The vault's walls, once merely cold, now groaned like timbers in a gale. Each complaint of stone raised hairs on Sam's forearms, yet he pressed on, quill scratching as he copied the crescent spear map onto fresh calfskin. All eras worked beside him, translating a parchment whose ink bled from purple to bruise black. Every so often the Dornishman paused to whisper a Valyrian consonant, testing its ghost on his tongue before committing it to plain speech. Their shared lamp burned low, fed sparingly with oil filched from the seneschal stores. When its flame faltered, Sam snuffed it, mindful that new smoke might betray them to patrolling novices. In the hush that followed, the citadel's heartbeats returned. Far-off chains clinking, a night raven flapping within the rookery's cage, the distant drone of rolling tides. Each sound seemed to echo some greater pulse beneath the city, as though Old Town itself remembered older songs. Here, all eras murmured, sliding a scroll toward Sam, a ledger of vow-binding, names in the old tongue, yet numbered by maesters of Hightower age. He tapped a symbol that resembled twin icicles crossed. See the sigil? The Watcher's mark, but inverted. Sam leaned close, breath clouding the vellum. Inverted, he repeated. A countersign? Perhaps those released from the Covenant. Or those who broke it. All eras traced a line. Each entry lists a season of return, none longer than a man's span. Until this, he pointed farther down, where the ink thinned into scratches, yet the figures remained legible. Year 8207. Past the Dawn Age, past Undull Conquest, past even Aegon's Landing. If accurate, all eras whispered, the Covenant endured until scarcely 3 centuries ago.
Samespalskikt.
3 centuries within memory of living trees. The dance of the dragons, he murmured. That civil war split the realm like rotten fruit. Could their struggle have shattered more than crowns? He thought of the field of fire of Harrenhal melting. Fire forgets. Alaraz's expression sharpened. Targaryen dragons may have scorched the Vowstone. If so, Sam said softly, the other's guardianship ended not in legend but by mortal folly. For a long moment they watched lamplight flicker across the ledger's columns, seeing not ink but possibilities. A war of fire that woke ice, a covenant undone, a reckoning long delayed by chance alone. We need corroboration, Sam said at last, fingers trembling with urgency. Accounts from beyond the wall, sightings in Skagos, anything that ties to the late years of dragons. There is one vault deeper, all eras replied. Locked behind a storm iron grate, the key rings from Seneschal Pereston's belt.
Sames stomach lurched.
Stealing a parchment was one sin. Pilfering a key from the Citadel's Master of Order risked expulsion, or worse, a raven-winged condemnation to the faith. Yet the vision that chilled their chamber returned. Ice spires, moonlit banners, a blade that shone like murdered dawn. If that prophecy nested within the barred vault, no lock could stand. There may be another path, Sam offered. Pereston's scribe tallies every lone tome at dawn. We could request the grate be opened for fumigation. I have seen him order the practice when scroll rot threatened the black cells. Convince him of rot in texts untouched for centuries? All eras arched a brow. He would have us flogged for insolence. Sam flushed, but determination kindled behind his ribs. Then we prove the rot. He lifted the scrap bearing the glowing rune. Its edges were powdery with age. A careless breath sent specks drifting. If we feign that spore dust has spread, he must act, else risk blame should the vault spoil further. All eras considered. A gamble, but less bloody than theft. Blood, Sam muttered. Is what the others spill. He straightened, rolling his shoulders. First light approaches. We should tidy what we may and fetch Peristan before novices crowd the seneschal's court. They packed their evidence quickly, sealing each relic in waxed linen. Sam tucked the rune scrap into his maester's sleeve, close against the warmth of his skin. When they eased the whispering door ajar, dawn's first pallor seeped along the corridor, stirring dust motes into an auburn mist. As they crept toward the grand stair, Sam's thoughts wandered beyond stone walls, to Gilly and little Sam at the Riverside Inn. He imagined her reading a primer he had purchased, shaping letters he had taught her. Gilly's courage had carried her through horrors. He must match her resolve. Should the Citadel exile him, she would bear the brunt. Yet if the alternative was ignorance while the world froze, he could not balk. They descended to the Seneschal's chambers, a suite of arched rooms bolted onto an exterior bastion. The door stood open, two clerks arranging parchment stacks upon a long table. Neither looked up as Sam and all eras crossed to the innermost office. There, Maester Peristan hunched over a ledger the size of a hearthstone, stylus bobbing like a hawk's beak. Seneschal, Sam began, voice steadier than he felt. A matter pressing, touching the preservation of our oldest archives. Perestan's stylus halted. He lifted rheumy eyes, suspicion simmering. Archives you disgraced last night? The clerk stilled, ears pricking. Sam inclined his head. We followed your directive, and in so doing discovered a contagion of vellum mold advancing upon the sealed vault. If untreated, the texts may crumble within moons. He produced the sealed packet, easing it open just enough to release a faint puff of dust. Observe. Peristan recoiled, nostrils flaring. The dust lingered, acrid with age. He snatched a kerchief, pressing tea to his mouth. Gods preserve us. I smell decay. Volatile spores, Sam supplied. They thrive in damp stone. We traced them from the storm iron grate down to the flagged floor. They breed swiftly in summer heat. All eras added. A gentle bake and a lye wash can arrest the spread. But the vault must be aired within the day. The seneschal eyed them, mind churning behind bloodshot lids. Citadel prestige rested upon immaculate preservation. Any negligence might tarnish his office. At length he snapped to a clerk, "Fetch the fumigation brazier. Summon novice Orin to prepare lye." To Sam and all eras he said, "You will oversee the process. Under guard. Once the vault breathes, you reseal it and report." Relief flooded Sam's knees. He bowed, murmured thanks, and turned to leave, but Perestan's voice halted him. "Touch nothing beyond what mold demands. I shall count every folio afterward." "As you say, Seneschal," all eras replied, dipping his head just low enough to mask a smirk. The storm iron grate yawned like a dragon's maw, rows of dull teeth glinting as it lifted. The brazier's coals hissed under a ladle of vinegar, sending gray plumes rolling across the threshold. Sam led the procession. Two novices lugging lye buckets, all eras bearing tongs, and a single guardsman whose sword belt clinked with each step. Inside, the vault felt older than cold. Air pooled heavy, fragrant with cedar oil and something sharper, ozone, perhaps, trapped since storms remembered only by dead kings. Scroll racks lined the walls from floor to groin vault, their horizontals dense with copper-bound cylinders. Dust lay thick as hoarfrost on every surface. Sam motioned the novices to start a gentle sweep. While they busied themselves dampening lint and spores, he drifted to a central plinth where a lone chest of black oak crouched. Its lid bore no lock, only 7 sigils etched in sequence. Spear crescent, ringed globe, tower of ice, three-eyed stag, sunburst, dragon triune, and finally a blank oval half dissolved by time. All eras joined him, eyes reflecting brazier fire. The blank seal, unfinished or effaced, Sam brushed a thumb across it, would crumbled like burnt bread, revealing the ghost of a sigil too worn to name. Effaced, he decided. Someone sought to erase its meaning. Setting the rune scrap aside, he lifted the lid. A scent of wintergreen wafted out, preservative resin long faded. Atop folded silks lay 4 quart cylinders, each capped with hammered silver. Scripts glimmered within like trapped starlight. Sam's heart hammered. Glass scribe shafts were relics of the long night itself, forged to protect ink from frost. He eased one free, rolling it until runes faced the brazier glow. Unlike the brittle scrolls above, the letters here shone crisp as new blades. All eras angled the tongs to catch any dust, but none fell. The cylinder was immaculate. "Read," whispered Sam. All eras inhaled, translating in soft Valyrian. Asterisk, the pact sworn beneath veiled comets. Moonblood for Sunseed, shadow ice for dawn flame. Men to guard the children, others to guard the gate. None may wield fire in ice's realm, nor ice in fire's. Thus rides the balance. Asterisk.
Sam trembled.
It is a covenant, written by both. He pictured pale warriors kneeling to weirwood-eyed children, men standing sentinel while others patrolled sunless horizons. A cosmic treaty, not mere myth. All eras continued. Asterisk, when dragons rise beyond the spine of the world, the gate shall crack. One tongue of flame upon covenant stone seals the midwinter doom. Let the witness bear warning. Asterisk, they exchanged stricken looks. Dragons, Targaryen dragons, had indeed crossed the spine of the world mountains when the conquest soared from Dragonstone. But fire on covenant stone? Could Balerian's breath have scorched some holy monument in the far north? Sam's mind raced to Jon's tale of the Fist of the First Men. High, ringed earth crowned with strange carvings and a cache of dragonglass. Had it once held covenant stone? If Balerian's spawn burned there afore Aegon's time, the witness, all eras mused aloud, a being or order tasked to remember, perhaps still alive. Or sleeping, Sam said, in stasis, as the others once slept. He reached for the second cylinder. Its script unfurled a narrative of exile. Frost-fallen prince cast beyond the curtain of sky to wander worlds within the dark. It spoke of a realm where stars weep and echoes birth reflections, and of a blade named Winter's Mercy, forged not of ice but of absence. Sam's pulse skipped. Absence, void, dragonglass? No, deeper. These are prophecies, he murmured. Records of a banished heir to the frost crown. An other in exile, all eras whispered. Perhaps the watcher of legend. A clang startled them. The guard had wrapped his sword on a rack. Time, he grunted, pinching his nose against vinegar fumes. Stinks rising. Sam nodded, latching the chest. We'll continue next watch, he promised all eras. Together they shepherded novices out, sealing the grate as Peristan arrived to tally. The seneschal squinted at the freshly aired racks, finding no mold but ample vinegar haze.
Sam feigned apology, citing hidden spores.
Peristan grumbled yet conceded. He could hardly deny his own nose. That night, second of 3, Sam returned alone. All eras remained in the Quill Hall forging a false report of mold colonies to satisfy Perestan's archives. Sam carried only the rune scrap, a pinch of lie for pretext, and a heart thundering with purpose. He found the grate unbarred, a novelty that chilled him more than winter's kiss. 2 torches flickered inside. Voices drifted, one hushed, one growling. Sam pressed into shadow, recognizing both tones. Peristan stood by the plinth, hands clasped behind his back. Opposite him loomed a man Sam had seen but once. Lord Leighton Hightower's dark-robed steward, Melasser, rumored adept of hidden arts. Scrolls mention the gate, Melasser was saying, yet not its location. Do the boys pry deeper? They skirt essential passages, Peristan replied, irritation leaking. The fat one fawns over myths. The Sphinx hides claws. I allowed fumigation to measure their goals. Melasser's hood shifted. We need the locust before the mummer's dragon crowns his winter court. Your novices nosing about might prove useful. Sam stilled, heart drumming. Mummer's dragon, code once whispered in King's Landing for false princes. Could this refer to Aegon VI? Or a newer pretender? Perestan's voice lowered. Tread soft. Citadel eyes multiply. Eyes, the steward echoed, are cheaply bought. He raised a parchment. High tower coffers purchase silence. Yet we still lack the final sigil. Without it, no key. Sigil, the blank one effaced on the chest. Sam's pulse raced. Malasser reached inside his robe, producing a vial of black sand that glittered under torchlight. If scholarship fails, he murmured, contrast reveals hidden things. He scattered a pinch across the effaced oval. The grains clung, outlining faint grooves, the shape of a many-branched tree brooding over a crescent moon. Peristan sucked in breath. Night tree, a totem of Skagos. Of cannibals, Malasser corrected. And of the Watcher's exile. Sam's mind whirled. Skagos, the map's runes, the ledger in Skagos script. If the exile's cult yet thrived among islanders, the key lay there. Enough, Peristan said, extinguishing one torch. Replace the sand before dawn. They turned to leave. Sam retreated up the corridor, clutching the rune scrap like a relic. He ducked into a recess until footsteps faded, then hurried to the rookery. Under the rookery's conical roof, ravens muttered in wicker coops. Sam selected a glossy black bird whose legs still bore a leather thong from Eastwatch. He penned a message on thin parchment. John, Bran, whichever brother first hears. Covenant of Watchers broke by dragon flame. He hides in Skagos' night tree sigil.
Molossur sik skote.
Urgent Kunsel.
Sam zviezdica.
He tied the slip, whispered fly swift, and launched the raven through the turret slit. The bird vanished into moonsheen, wings beating a cadence older than kingdoms. On the third night, clouds swallowed the moon. Offshore wind rattled shutters as if demanding entry. Within the vault, Sam and all eras stooped over the final cylinder, the plinth's torches now replaced by shaded candles to avoid outside notice. Stale vinegar still clung to their lungs, a constant reminder of borrowed time. The last scroll unfurled not prophecy but witness, a chronicle of the Covenant's breaking. Inked in a tight, dispassionate hand, it recounted how 3 dragons passed the spine of the world, how their fire melted Heartstone, how frost knights gathered at the gate but found its arch blackened, the rune seals cracked. Thus the witness went forth among men, asterisk it read, asterisk hidden beneath many faces, seeking the promise of renewal. He would gather seed for a new covenant, lest eternal night drown dawn forever. Asterisk.
Same strot titand.
The witness, exiled prince, walked the world disguised. Perhaps still, all eras traced the final line. When the sword of absence drinks the blood of dragon seed beneath a weeping star, the gate will open anew, either for parley or for war without end. Sword of absence, Sam whispered. Valyrian steel? Dragonglass cannot drink blood. It shatters. Perhaps a blade forged from both. All eras suggested. Cold fire tempered by vacancy. Sam contemplated Heartsbane, his family's Valyrian steel greatsword, now resting on the wall in Jon's care. Valyrian steel, born of dragonfire, tempered with spells. Yet absence, maybe meteoric or sky iron unclaimed by dragon or forge. A clatter erupted near the grate. Peristan stormed in, flanked by 2 guards and Malasser. Torches blazed, banishing secrecy. Enough fumigation, the seneschal barked. Deliver the cylinders. Sam rose, heart pounding. They are fragile. They belong in leaded caskets. Spare lectures, growled Malasser. His eyes, shadowed by hood, glinted like wet stone. You have gleaned what we need. Surrender them. All eras stepped forward. By what authority? The conclaves or high towers? Malasser smiled thinly. By the authority of flame over ice. A new age approaches, and Archmaester or Urchin, you will choose sides. The guards advanced. Sam clutched the cylinder. These texts may avert disaster. Give us time to analyze. Time is winter's luxury, Malasser hissed. He raised a hand. The guard seized Sam's arm. The cylinder slipped, shattering against the stone. Shards of crystal skittered, and ink, still liquid after millennia, splashed across the floor in shimmering rivulets. Melasser cursed, kneeling to salvage fragments. Ink touch smoked where it met air, issuing tendrils of pale vapor. The guard yelped, dropping Sam to wipe his hands of stinging droplets. In the chaos, all eras snatched the remaining cylinders into a canvas satchel. He kicked the brazier, scattering ember and vinegar-soaked ash into Melasser's face. The steward reeled, cloak aflame at the hem. "Run!" all eras shouted. Sam bolted, clutching the satchel's strap as they tore down corridors. Bells began ringing, Paristan summoning watchmen. Sam's lungs burned. Sweat blurred his vision. At the base of a spiral stair, they veered into a disused passage that sloped toward the river docks. "Boat!" all eras gasped. "Hide on Honeywine." Ahead, lanterns bobbed, dock warden patrol. They ducked into a cargo alcove, breath sawing. Sam's mind raced. Gilly! He must reach her before Hightower men did. Footsteps neared, receded. When silence returned, all eras spoke. "Citadel closed to us now. We go north, Skagos, or beyond." Sam's pulse steadied. "I must bring my family. We'll fetch them. First, we need passage quick as tide." They consulted stolen charts, found a smuggler's lane where quayside pilings dipped beneath warehouse shadows. There, before dawn's pale smear, they hired a riverman for coin Sam had secreted in his boot. As they pushed from shore, bells clanged fruitlessly upriver. Hightower's beacon flared atop its spire, sweeping searchlight rays across mist, but the low-keeled skiff slid beneath unseen. Gilly waited at the inn porch, bundle in arms, eyes wide but fearless. Sam lifted little Sam, kissed his brow, whispered assurances. All eras ushered them aboard, stowing the satchel beneath oilskins. As oars beat a steady rhythm, Old Town skyline receded, a jagged crown against purpling sky. Sam watched Citadel towers dwindle, heart aching yet alight. He had not become Archmaester. He had become something older, a witness to lost vows, a bearer of fragile hope. Wind rose, salty with promise. Far to the north, unseen by mortal eyes, the wall's sentinels paced while stars wheeled in silent accord. Somewhere amid those constellations, a weeping star awaited its hour, and somewhere on Skagos' jagged shores, a night tree sigil guarded secrets of a blade born of absence. Samwell Tarley tightened his grip on the satchel. Dawn glimmered on ripples, painting paths of silver toward horizons yet unbroken. The journey had only begun, and its road would be long, for story's heart beats slow, and the world's truth, unveiled, demands time to breathe. So the skiff drifted northward, bearing Maester, mother, child, and Sphinx into tales unwritten, toward 5 hours worth of storm and starlit revelation. And beyond that, toward the place where ice remembers and fire at last agrees to listen. PGSQL. Night did not wholly lift as the skiff slipped up the Honeywine, the river's breath lingering like sodden wool about their faces. Samwell Tarley sat aft with little Sam bundled against his chest, feeling each drift of water thrum through the hull. Though dawn's first blush painted the sky behind them, a sheet of weather had rolled eastward from the sunset sea, dark, low, and glowering, as if the storm itself meant to shoulder them north. Oars rose and dipped in unison. The riverman's crew were simple fellows, yet they bent their backs with a solemnity that suggested they grasped peril without hearing a word. Watermen learned early that some cargoes invited pursuit by more than customs men. Gilly watched the receding sprawl of Old Town's docks until its lamps shrank to pinpricks. She said little. Her eyes were the color of slate beneath clouded morning, but Sam saw in them neither fear nor regret. She had grown tempered by white cold and black nights north of the wall. Losing stone walls and safer streets could not unmake that steel. From time to time she pressed knuckles to her son's cheek, murmuring nonsense to make him coo. Little Sam, now toddling in truth, flapped chubby hands at spray and gurgled whenever Enner thumped. All eras, crouched near the prow, kept vigil. His cat-like gaze flicked from reed-choked bends to high embankments where alder trunks leaned, stark against sky. Twice he signaled the crew to hush, cocking his head as if hearing hoofbeats upon distant roadways. Sam heard nothing beneath gull cries, but trusted the Sphinx's ears. They had stolen more than books. They had wrested secrets that Hightower and Citadel both would rather bury in deep stone. Pursuit, then, was only a matter of time and coin. Near midday the skiff passed under Pale Bend, where vineyards crowned sloping meadows and stewards waved from stone terraces. All eras counted banners, red quails of House Mullendore, the crossed keys of Beesbury, then relaxed infinitesimally. Hightower riders cannot gallop upriver more swiftly than tides, he murmured when Sam ventured a glance. If pursuit comes by horseback, it will shadow roads another day before overtaking us. Sam nodded, though worry pricked. And if they take a sailing barge? They'd need wind from the south, All Eras said, gesturing at lowering clouds. Today the wind is our friend. Their riverman, a wiry man named Borse, spat over the gunwale. Weather's tunnin' foul, he grunted. We'll make Bitterbridge afore sunset, God's willing, but northo that the mander runs thick with churn. He squinted at Sam's chain. If it please your maestership, shall we heave to there for night? My lads won't row blind through thunder. Thunder already rumbled, distant but earnest. Sam exchanged looks with All Eras, then Gilly. Little Sam sneezed at a scatter of cold spray. Bitterbridge is near enough to highway patrols, Sam said cautiously, and a town full of garrison ears. All Eras drummed fingers on his knee. Better risk garrison than river break. One rupture and the currents will eat us. He lifted chin toward Borse. Make Bitterbridge. We'll find shelter upriver come dawn. They bent to it once more, but conversation died. Rain arrived before the town. First a whisper, then a hiss, then a roar that hammered tar-soaked decking and puddled on Gilly's cloak. Oarsmen leaned harder, shouting rhythm against the noise. Sam huddled little Sam beneath wool. Each slap of rain stung his cheeks in memory, bringing him back to the watchtower at the wall, to endless sheets of ice rain heralding whites and worse. He shook off the thought. Down here, terror did not ride on weather, only men. Bitterbridge's timber labyrinth loomed at dusk, its wharves jutting like grasping hands into silt-choked eddies. Lanterns glowed behind shutters. Smoke plumes twisted against slate sky. Borse angled the skiff into a berth between grain barges, calling greetings to a harbor master who glared suspiciously but beckoned. While coin changed hands, Sam scanned the dock. No sigils of Hightower. Good for now. All Eras took the satchel of crystal cylinders beneath his cloak, binding it across his chest. We cannot lodge within walls, he said. Keys travel faster than feet.
Sit.
Sam suggested. Seps keep silent under the maiden's vows. Not when gold rattles, the Sphinx replied. His gaze wandered upriver. There's a potter's field north side, a shelter for ferrymen too poor to pay levy. We tuck into straw there and leave with first tide. Gilly listened without complaint. She had slept in straw and worse. So they disembarked, slipping through alleys behind Cooper's sheds while thunder stomped overhead. Bitterbridge's main square echoed with soldiers' boots. Banners of House Caswell drooped wetly, their yellow sunburst dulled by dusk. Sam glimpsed a group of Sellswords huddled around a brazier, dice rattling in tin cups. One wore a cloak of pale gray trimmed in black, a color that prickled memory, though he could not place it. They passed swiftly under dripping eaves, weaving until alleys gave way to marshy commons. Beyond a low stone wall rose a huddle of half-rotted wooden lean-tos. Rush mats lined doorways. Beggars' dogs barked but slunk at Alaraz's hiss. Inside the largest shack a dozen ferrymen snored, cloaks steaming beside a guttering brazier. The smell, stale ale, wet wool, human closeness, clutched Sam's throat, but straw was straw and the child needed warmth. By lantern glow they found an empty corner. Gilly laid blankets, humming lullaby as little Sam blinked. All Eras crouched nearby, cleaning moisture from the satchel's leather with a scrap of cloth. Sam sat cross-legged, chain coiled heavy upon his chest. He withdrew the lone, intact cylinder they had salvaged. The prophecy of covenant breaking. Candlelight licked across crystalline facets, painting veins of violet within the glass. "We have part of the tale," he whispered, "but not the gate's locale, nor the sword of absence." Alaraz's dark eyes gleamed. "Skagos first. Legend claims obsidian beaches there, void glass born of Earth's own fire. If absence means dragonglass, we may find proof." Sam rubbed lids heavy with river spray grit. "Heartsbane is Valyrian, forged of dragonfire. If dragonglass sits opposite the flame, perhaps the sword we need marries both. Unseen alloy," all eras mused. "One half memory, one half void." Gilly settled little Sam asleep, then crawled near. "Dragonglass kills White Walkers," she reminded them softly. "I saw you do it, Sam." Her gaze steadied on the cylinder. "If this sword's meant to drink dragonseed blood, will more folk die for warring old ghosts?" Sam felt a pang. He recalled the weight of the obsidian dagger, the shriek of the other he slew. Heroic legend, yet his hands had shaken after. "Maybe blood spilled now spares thousands later," he said, hating the platitude. Gilly reached to squeeze his arm. "It always comes to blood with men." Her voice held neither anger nor despair, only weary knowledge. Thunder cracked overhead, rattling the shack. Straw dust danced. The ferrymen grumbled in sleep, rolling like sacks. Sam listened to the storm's heartbeats echo his own, and for a moment he imagined Old Town's beacon sweeping across restless seas, seeking their little boat. Somewhere deep in the citadel, Malasser would be raging over lost relics. Peristan would file writs of arrest. Perhaps already he had offered spoons of silver to town garrisons along their path. Sam lowered onto blankets, letting Gilly's warmth steady him. Sleep teased like distant harpstrings. Yet as lids drooped, whispers returned, the same that once stirred ink into glow. They hissed of gates sealed by frost, of watchers who regretted not the punishment but the silence that followed. His dreams tumbled into flurries of white ravens winging across a sky of shattered glass. Dawn's murk hauled them upright well before cockcrow. Rain had ceased, leaving a hush thick with steam. All eras stirred the brazier embers, coaxing a last breath of heat for a pot of barley. They ate with wooden spoons, ignoring half-conscious ferrymen, then slipped out into a world washed clean. On Bitterbridge's North Wharf, they struck bargain with a keelboat captain hauling wool bolts upriver to Tumbleton. The man, Harlan, eyed Alaraz's skin and Sam's chain suspiciously, but greed overcame caution. He charged thrice the fare Bourse had. Sam paid from a purse that once belonged to Lord Commander Snow, a gift for emergencies. The keelboat, broad and flat, moved slower than the skiff yet steadier in heavy current. They perched beneath canvas, cloistered among burlap bales. All eras spent hours sketching runes from memory onto parchment. Sam cross-referenced glyph shapes with fragments. Gilly sang low to little Sam, plucking at threads of Sam's torn cloak to fashion a crude ragdoll. Their route curved away from populous market towns, hugging reedy banks where frogs croaked like rattled bones. Twice they passed ruined watchposts, stone heaps from the Dance of the Dragons, according to Harlan. Sam studied scorch marks on toppled walls and wondered if those fires, too, had licked at hidden Covenant stones. In evenings they tied at secluded bends. Gilly gathered driftwood. All eras kept quiet watch. Sam copied pages until Quill cramped his fingers. They slept upon deck, dew-turning blankets stiff by dawn. And each dawn they rose, chewing flatbread while river mists curled like pale kittens among the reeds. 4 days carried them to the mouth of the Mander's Great Fork, where trade split toward King's Landing on the Blackwater or White Harbor on the White Knife. Here they must choose. To reach Skagos required a sea voyage north. White Harbor offered ships, but King's Landing offered ports rife with spies. Harlan moored beside a fishing village called Wyvern's Rest, little more than net sheds and salt-furling racks. As their party unloaded, all eras slipped coins to the captain for silence. The man nodded, yet Sam sensed coin could not bind tales long. Beyond the village sprawled meadows pocked by sheep. A lone road wound northeast toward Rose Road. They avoided it, skirting hedges until a farmer's cart rattled by. All eras hailed. an old man driving geese to market, who grudgingly allowed passengers. They rode among squawking birds for hours, Gilly laughing at the clamor, little Sam giggling as feathers tickled his cheeks. By dusk, they reached an inn near Stonebridge. Here all eras proposed a bold course. Split paths. Pursuers follow clusters, he explained. If 3 ride, 1 path will appear decoy. He suggested he and Gilly remain with little Sam, traveling slower along Dust Road under guise of Merchant's family, while Sam rode ahead to White Harbor bearing the satchel's burden, seeking passage to Skagos. Sam balked. Leave Gilly again? Yet reason argued. A maester traveled easier alone. 1 man could slip through nets where 4 could not. And if Hightower or Molasser closed in, Alaraz's nimble wits could slip Gilly into wood or farmstead. Sam's size and chain made stealth improbable. Gilly studied Sam's face, then nodded. I'll protect our boy. You find what you need. She kissed him fiercely. And you come back alive, Samwell Tarley. They spent one last night in a hayloft above the inn stable. Rain drummed again, but inside it smelled of sweet straw and horseflesh. Sam dozed with Gilly's hand tucked in his, counting breaths. When gray dawn seeped, they parted before words could fail them. He donned a patched cloak, slinging a small satchel of food over one shoulder and the greater satchel under slitted lining, where the cylinder rode against his ribs. All eras pressed a dagger into his belt, a slender Bravosi blade. Men see a maester and think quills, he warned. Remind them quills can bleed. Sam muttered thanks, hard in throat, then set off along muddy track, alone save wind. The kingdom beyond seemed both vast and startlingly mundane. Crows sparring for worms, ploughman cursing stubborn soil, children splashing puddles as though storms were adventures. Sam traveled light, pausing only to purchase hardtack or fill flask from wayside wells. 2 days brought him to the crossroads inn of the Kneeling Man. There, rumors buzzed beneath rafters. Hightower bannermen combing roads for stolen relic. Sailors in Old Town Harbor speaking of maester traders. Sam kept hood low, but ears pricked. Word spread swift. He bartered passage on a northbound grain wagon, offering a silver stag and a verse of Night's Watch songs to amuse the driver. They followed the Rose Road through rolling downs into lands of golden wheat. At every holdfast Sam glimpsed patrols, Crownland knights sporting new livery, crowned stag and flaming heart parted by comet. Queen Alice Karstark's rumored regency had evidently spurred alliances, but Sam gave wide berth to soldiers. Near dusk of the 5th day, thunderheads reared once more. The wagoner refused to press on, but White Harbor lay scarce 8 miles ahead. Sam elected to walk rather than linger near Garrison Outpost. Fireflies winked among cattails. Marsh frogs sang dirges. He trudged on, heavy chain chafing. Halfway across a lonely span of causeway stones, he heard hoofprints behind him, one mount, pacing steady. Sam quickened steps, fingers finding dagger hilt. The rider closed with unhurried confidence, reins jingling like coins. Sam glanced over shoulder. A tall figure cloaked in mottled grays, face hidden by half-helm of faded steel.
No livery.
Hold, maester, came a woman's voice, low and sure as bowstring.
Sam halted, swallow sticking.
If you mean to rob me, I carry little worth. She swung down. Moonlight revealed pale hair braided tight by ears, freckles dusting nose. Eyes bright as winter stars studied him. My quarrel is not with coin, she said. From cloak she produced a wooden token burned with crescent spear rune. A friend bids you speak. Blood drained from Sam's cheeks. Who? He names himself Watcher. She tucked token away. I am Rowan Snow, rider of Last Hearth. The Watcher sent ravens. Maester bearing glass truth rides path tonight. I find you. Sam's mind spun. His raven to Castle Black or to Bran? Must have reached hands swift indeed. How do I know you tell it plain? He asked. Anyone could carve that rune. She unbuckled belt pouch, producing a scrap of parchment sealed with black wax. Smell, she instructed. He cracked seal. Scent of weirwood and cold. the very resin Bran used when preserving carved pieces at Winterfell's heart tree. Within, a single line scrawled in Bran's meticulous hand. Trust Snow's branch that never broke. Beside it, Bran's sigil of ravens swirling.
Sam exhaled.
Very well, he clasped token. But my path is urgent, White Harbor, then Skagos. Then I will guide you, Rowan said. She whistled. From fog emerged another mount, riderless but saddled. Watcher's will. Skagos holds answers for us all. They rode under restless skies, Rowan's pace swift yet measured. She spoke sparingly, of wildling raids repelled near the Bay of Seals, of Lord Manderley's new fleet vigilant against ironborn marauders, of rumors that Queen Alice bartered with red priests for fire wardens. But when Sam asked of the witness, she grew terse. Watcher counsels caution. Names bear power, she said. White Harbor's walls loomed come dawn, bastions of damp stone whitewashed by aging salt. Flags of the merman rippled. Rowan led Sam by Fisher Docks rather than Main Gate, bargaining passage aboard a leviathan of a carrack named Maiden's Wish, bound for Eastwatch before turning west along Skagos's jagged lee. Captain Greyjack, a broad-shouldered woman with one silver eye, weighed Sam's chain and Rowan's coin, then nodded. Sailing would wait on tide and clearing skies. They lodged aboard that afternoon, hammocks slung near hold where smoked cod hung in fragrant bunches. Sam spent hours pacing deck, watching gulls wheel. The satchel, hidden in his berth's lining, seemed to burn like a second heart. He feared to sleep lest he dream again of ice princes. Evening bells tolled vespers across harbor. Rowan joined him at rail. Storms I passes, she said, inhaling briny wind. We sail with dawn. She angled gaze at Sam's chain. You bear burden heavier than iron. Knowledge often weighs more, Sam murmured. She studied him. My lord, the Watcher, speaks of balance. Says those who guard dawn must also guard dusk. Do your scrolls name the price of balance? Sam thought of Gilly's question of blood and men. Not yet, he answered, but scrolls rarely spare ink for mercy. She gave a small, almost wistful smile. Let us pray mercy blooms where ink does not. Wind shifted. Somewhere far across the darkening bay, drums beat a harbor watch rhythm. Lanterns flicked along quays. Sam turned toward shadows at end of pier. Two silhouettes detached from mooring posts, cloaks billowing. One raised a spyglass. It glinted beige in lamplight. Rowan's hand slid toward the axe at her belt. High tower,
Sam whispered.
Could be, she replied. Or worse. Without another word, she guided him below decks, instructing Captain Greyjack to weigh anchor at first hint of tide regardless of schedule. Greyjack spat but assented. Night deepened. In the hold, Sam perched on a grain sack, cylinder nestled in hands. He rotated it, watching lamplight refract rune rose across barrels. Ice-forged lords, Moon's daughter, Covenant stone. Each phrase was a promise and a threat. He opened his journal, adding what the Skagos token taught. Night tree, exiled prince, sword of absence craving dragonseed blood under weeping star. Yet now he added Rowan's mention, balance and its price. Sleep crept finally as ship groaned against dock. Dreams tumbled again. A cavalcade across frozen tundra, black-armored riders bearing standards of crescent spears and night trees. At their head walked a woman crowned in icicles, eyes sorrowful. She extended a crystal blade toward Sam. Within its length glimmered both starfire and velvet void. When he reached to take it, the blade melted into water that flowed through his fingers and drained into snow, leaving him empty-handed while her eyes shattered into tears of blood. Thunder of boots awoke him before dawn. Rowan burst into hold, iron at her hip. Rouse, Maester Greyjack's crew caught two men boarding. One wore citadel rings. Sam lurched to feet, heart slamming. The satchel still rested under cloak. He thrust journal into it, slinging strap over shoulder. Above, deck was chaos. Sailors grappling with a slim figure in maester robes. No mistaking those links. The captive's hood fell. Pale hair, gaunt cheeks. Preston's junior clerk, Sam realized, novice Orin. By rail lay another man prone, crossbow bolt feather protruding from chest. One of Molasser's cell's words, judging by Grey Mantle. Captain Greyjack roared orders. 2 crew hefted the living man while ship swung away from quay. Sails not yet set but tide tugging. Lanterns flicked along dock. Whistles blew. Arrows hissed, clattering off hull. Rowan pressed Sam toward stern. "Nothing matters but cylinder," she hissed. "Guard it." She ducked beneath rail, drawing bow. Sam crouched as corals zipped overhead. The ship scraped piling, then drifted free, current seizing. Crew hauled madly at halyards. Canvas bellied with snapping crack. Novice Orin, wrists bound, stared wild-eyed at Sam through tangle of hair. "They will hunt you to world's end," he gasped. Peristan swore oaths. Hightower gold buys fleets. Sam could muster no pity. "Better their gold than the world's ending," he muttered, though dread coiled. As sun's rim pierced horizon, Maiden's Wish plunged into white-knifed seas, sails taut. White harbor shrank, a pearl among breakers, then vanished behind mist. With each roll, Sam anchored knuckles on rail, fighting nausea. Beyond foam and cloud stretched a future of jagged islands and deeper secrets. He thought of Gilly somewhere south on Dusty Road, of all eras weaving safe nets. He thought of Bran, whose ravens stitched sky to ground. When Rowan emerged from below, she steadied him with feather-light touch. "Trust water's path," she said. "Rivers join seas, seas meet suns." Her voice held strange cadence, half prayer, half prophecy.
Sam exhaled shakily.
"And ice. Ice remembers." She glanced toward towering clouds, their bellies awash in sunrise. But memory alone cannot forgive. Only new vows may. He followed her gaze. In the dawn sprawl, an opening in the clouds revealed a lone star still visible. A bright ember perched above the waking world. For an instant Sam fancied it wept pale fire. He felt the cylinder warm beneath cloak, as though hearing the star. 5 hours of voyage stretched ahead, then days more along haunted coastlines. The story's heart would beat yet slower, each pulse a chance to understand, to weave mercy with remembrance. Sam squared shoulders against spray, chain glinting in newborn light, and readied himself for the long tale still to write upon the world. Sequel. Waves cracked like iron stovetop lids against the flared bow of Maiden's Wish, sending brine hissing across the forecastle. Dawn's rose-gray promise had vanished beneath a shroud of ever-thickening fog, and with each league the shivering sea breathed colder upon the sails. Samwell Tarley clutched the lee rail, while cloak snapping behind him, and listened to the hull groan, the slow, aching groan of a living thing pressed too hard by water and wind. The cylinder of crystal lore, wrapped in oily sailcloth and lashed beneath his tunic, thumped gently against his ribs with the vessel's every tilt, a heartbeat not his own urging him northward. Behind him, deckhands labored in muffled rhythm, reefing the foresail to a handspan, easing strain on spars already spiderwebbed with hairline cracks. Captain Greyjack's silver eye glinted through mist as she barked orders in a voice like gulls fighting for offal. Rowan Snow paced the quarterdeck with long, sure strides, braids snapping. Whenever the fog momentarily thinned, she raised a flint-rimmed spyglass and swept the stern horizon, hunting for any sail foolish or paid well enough to follow them into these slate waters. So far, the horizon remained blank but for white-capped teeth. Yet pursuit could cling like barnacles unseen until too late. Sam's fingers, blue at the knuckles, longed for the heat of a brazier below. But the sight of sea cliffs looming half-imagined in the haze, jagged as a lion's maw, Skagos' cursed shore, if charts proved true, held him at rail. Each new reef that gnawed skyward might bear the night tree crest he sought. Each surge of foam might swirl around the rocks where watchers of frost still knelt in gloom. Legend told of secret coves where blind white seals crawled among dragonglass shards, of villages that boiled strangers' flesh in cauldrons older than the faith. Much and more might be lies spun by terrified sailors. But lies often sprouted from some buried root, and Sam meant to tug light after them. "Maester," Rowan murmured at his shoulder, her cloak's wolf-faced clasp flecked with blown spray. "Sea hounds off port beam, 2 of them cutting fast." She pointed through fog. Faint hulks slewed across a trough. Triangular sails dyed a dirty crimson. Fleets of House Harlaw, Sam thought first, but the color felt wrong. Molasser might command hired blades under no sigil but coin. Greyjack mustered crew to arms, boathooks, arbalests, even a pair of swivel scorpions kept for warding reavers near Skane. Sam's stomach folded. He had seen scorpions launch iron bolts through whites at Hardhome. Against men, they bled worse. The pursuers heeled closer. Fog parted long enough to reveal a squat cutter ahead of them as well, oaken hull stained by pitch. 3 warships, hemming Maiden's Wish like wolves cornering a heart. Greyjack cursed, spat the name of a half-forgotten sea god, and tugged the wheel hard larboard. The deck slanted. Sam stumbled into Rowan's shoulder. Somewhere midship, a mast-stay's rope groaned and snapped with a pistol crack. "Can't outrun them," Rowan judged, calm despite spray lashing her cheek. "But we can make reef cover." Skago's teeth ahead. "See that rime of breakers?" She pointed to jagged silhouettes materializing, basalt fangs cloaked by foam. "Their keels draw deep. We draw shallow." Greyjack's lips peeled from yellow teeth. If the gods favor suicidal pilots." Yet she spun the wheel, shouting, "Sheet in the topsail! Hold her tight!" Sailcloth boomed. The ship heaved, skidding across the slope of a long wave and angling toward the ragged fringe where sea lions roared amid boulders. The cutter behind loosed a volley of crossbow quarrels that rattled useless off Maiden's stern plating. Too far, but range shrank. Sam felt the cylinder pulsing. No, that was only his heart, but he imagined the ink inside swirling, remembering times when men and others made chase through ice labyrinths. He slipped one hand beneath tunic, fingers brushing cold glass as if to plead for counsel. The prophecy letters did not glow now, yet he sensed them awake. Rowan fitted an arrow to lamellar bowstring, waiting until the cutter's bow wave gained stark shape. She loosed. The shaft sailed, vanishing into spray. A distant shriek followed, and one pursuer veered as a helmsman fell. But 2 more vessels still closed. The sea narrowed between reefs. Sam saw the water ahead churn milk. Why over hidden spurs? Greyjack's helmsman leaned into wheel as though wrestling a bull. "Hold your breath," she snarled. Maiden's Wish * plunged into a gullet of jade water. The hull scraped stone with a scream that stiffened every spine aboard. Masts shuddered, but momentum flung them free. They shot into a calmer pool shadowed by cliffs. Behind, the first pursuer attempted same course, and split upon a fong, keel ripping open. Men spilled like ants before the sea swallowed whole. The second drew hard abeam, cannonading broadside of rock. Its mast snapped, rigging dragging men into foaming trough. The forward cutter, larger, chose caution and reefed sail, swinging wide to search another passage. Too wide, for fog swallowed it again. Cheers erupted aboard Maiden's Wish, ragged as torn sails. Sam sagged against rail, breathless. Afternoon found them creeping beneath Skagos' western cliffs. Walls of obsidian sheened black, ridged by veins of frozen sapphire. From fissures seeped waterfalls that shattered in midair, scattering mist that clung like silk to basalt faces before raining down as frigid drizzle. Seals barked atop ledges. Gulls shrieked in cyclones of wind. No sign of human life, though cairns of piled stones, too neat for nature, crowned some promontories. A narrow inlet accepted Greyjack's battered hull at dusk. They anchored in soundless water the color of wrought iron, ringed by ice-scabbed rocks shaped like kneeling giants. Rowan led Sam ashore in a yawl with 2 sailors. Pebbles cracked beneath boots crisp as dry bones. Air smelled of peat smoke drifting faint from inland, proof of hearths, though whose, none could guess. Rowan crouched, tracing a sigil into damp shingle, a circle bisected by crude tree. "Night tree," she confirmed. "We follow trail inland, but tread quiet. Skagosi fear all strangers, and some they eat. Paths wound upward. Scrub pine clawed at wind. Patches of lamb's ear moss cushioned hidden springs." Twice Sam spied lumps of volcanic rock riddled with obsidian veins. Shards lay like spilled ink glass. He collected a few dagger-long splinters, mindful how one such shard once felled a white walker. They reached a plateau as stars pricked frost-clear sky. A vast field spread before them, ringed by menhirs of black ice shot through with starlight. Each pillar framed a view of northern horizon, where auroral ribbons unsettled heavens in silent dance. At the circle's heart brooded a colossal weirwood stump, bleached bone white, trunk hollowed into cavern maw. Yet this tree bore no red leaves. It had died ages past. Around its girdle, black roots fused with obsidian, as though fire had melted flesh into stone. Rowan knelt, head bowed. "The Watcher's seat," she murmured. "He waits beyond." She indicated a fissure in stump wide enough for 2 men. "But custom first, gift of remembrance." Sam removed the crystal cylinder peeling cloth. He set it upon basalt altar stone before the stump, ink swirling faint within. Wind moaned through pillars, a hush like thousands of distant voices inhaling. Then candlelight blossomed inside the stump. No candle, a gentle inner glow. From the shadow emerged a figure tall and draped in fur that shimmered midnight blue. His face was hidden by wooden mask carved to resemble a raven skull, eyes twin hollows burning pale fire. Sam's knees buckled at first sight, yet he steadied. Here was the witness. The aura about him pulsed memory, centuries layering like sediment. Rowan lowered eyes but remained standing. The figure's voice drifted, neither male nor female, carrying crackle of frozen leaves. "You bear the shards of covenant, Samwell Tarley, and the wound of broken oaths." The eyes glowed brighter, reflecting cylinder runes. "Show me the glyphs." Sam placed cylinder into slender gloved hands. The witness held it aloft. Light pierced glass, projecting runes across pillars. Ink shapes coiled, reordering until they formed a symbol new to Sam. Spiral of fire encircled by ring of ice. "This is the balance," the witness intoned. "Lost when dragon flame quenched Watcher's vows." Mask tilted toward Rowan. "Daughter of last hearth, do you accept burden borne by flesh of first men?" Rowan's voice barely above breath. "I am branch unbroken." She sliced her palm with a stone knife, letting 3 drops fall upon stump. Sap hissed from dead bark, scent of resin rising. The witness turned to Sam. "And you, kneeler of the craven past, breaker of fear, will you forge the sword of absence?"
Sam's mouth dried.
"I am no smith, but I will serve any craft that seals dawn from endless night." At this the witness extended hand. In it materialized a shard of crystalline metal darker than night glass yet rimmed with faint starfire, a sliver of the blade Sam dreamt. "Void steel," murmured the witness, "forged where stars die. Temper it with blood of dragon seed bound by oath of mercy. Only then will balance here renewal." "Dragon seed," Sam repeated, mind racing through names. Jon Snow, a Stark and Targaryen both. Daenerys if alive, Aegon if genuine. Any bastard born of Valyrian line. Blood to quench void steel. Lightning flickered beyond pillars though no storm neared. The witness returned cylinder. "In 3 turns of moon, weeping star shall cross sky above Winterfell. Should sword not be birthed beneath its light, gate will open in wrath, not parley." Voice lowered to whisper. "Pereston's masters hasten there already, conjuring flame to greet ice. Hurry." Suddenly the glow within stump dimmed. The mask withdrew into blackness. Rowan touched Sam's arm. "It is done." They descended before dawn. Behind them, pillars faded into gloom like ghosts. Atop ridge they paused. Sam looked back. For a moment he saw Mask watching, then stars swallowed it. At inlet, Greyjack's crew had repelled a second assault during night. Arrows studded mast. 1 sailor bled from thigh but lived. The pursuer cutter drifted half-sunk, hull burned by pitchpots. Greyjack greeted Sam with grim nod. "Your errands breed ill fortune, Maester," she muttered, but accepted coin pouch Rowan offered. Silver stags stamped with direwolf sigil. "We quit this damn isle by dusk." Rowan consulted charts. "East watch beckons. From their ravens fly swift to Winterfell. We must summon dragon seed." Her eyes pinned Sam. Your Jon Snow must wield mercy or lend blood, else balance fails. Sam nodded, felt weight of impossible task. Forge void steel blade in weeks, gather ancient magics. Yet he remembered fear on hard home, the dread hush before screaming wights. He could not let that shadow flood world again. As Maiden's wish beat east along Skagos Lee, Sam spent every spare watch in Captain's tiny galley, mixing obsidian shards with drops of his own blood and seawater brine, studying how glass reacted, prelude to welding void steel. He pored over memories of blacksmith Donal Noy, of masterly treatises on forging Valyrian steel, secret folds, dragonfire tempering, spells sung in high tongue. No scroll gave formula for star metal. He must innovate, guided by instinct and the witness's shard. Rowan trained sailors to chant an old Northman dirge that kept rowers unified through cross-currents. Cold bars break, hearts wake, dawn stake. The rhythm burrowed into Sam's dreams until he mouthed lyrics while scribbling. 5 days passed under brittle sun. Icebergs drifted, calved from nightmares. Seals followed Hull, curious. On 6th night, Aurora danced crimson. Sailors crossed hearts, muttering that red curtains heralded war. Sam, gazing upward, recalled line of prophecy. When sword of absence drinks dragon seed beneath weeping star. He wondered if Aurora's fires were tears of star. 7th dawn revealed Eastwatch's battered ramparts. Smoke rose, signal fires. Dock hands shouted warnings. Storm giants brewing westward. Greyjack anchored. Sam, Rowan, and 3 crew rowed through slush to crumbling pier. Rangers greeted with surprise and joy. Tarly, once brother, now Maester Exile. Within storeroom he embraced Dolorous Ed Tolet, now acting Lord Commander. Ed listened grimly as Sam relayed covenant, gate, sword. Bugger me, muttered Ed. Thought dying in outhouse was worst fate. Now whole world's commode. He pledged ravens to Winterfell, Dragonstone, Storm's End. Bran must send guidance. If Jon resided anywhere, Winterfell's crypts would know. Meanwhile, Sam inspected Eastwatch's forge. Little more than bent anvil, rusted bellows. Not enough. He must reach Winterfell where forge is stronger, smiths better, maybe king in the North's own blacksmiths. Rowan agreed. She procured shaggy garrons, hardy ponies, for overland trek. 2 days after arrival, they departed across foothills beneath pale sunrise, void steel shard wrapped in sealskin, cylinder tucked within Sam's satchel, obsidian splinters rattling like bones. They passed ruined villages left empty after the long night war. Charred beams jutted, frost coating ash. In a hamlet where children once played, crows nested in hearths. Sam's heart ached but purpose drove heels. One midnight they camped by hot spring fissure, warmth steaming into sky. Rowan sliced fresh hair for stew. Sam studied shard under starlight. Its surface drank constellations, showing none, as though absorbing cosmos. He pressed obsidian sliver to it. Glass hissed, melting edge into molten bead that skated across shard and vanished inside, leaving surface flawless.
Absence de vour dragonglace.
Sam's mind sparked. Perhaps blade melding required glass sacrifice, each splinter feeding void steel core until saturate. At dawn he tested again, feeding sliver after sliver. Shard swelled, lengthening incremental fractions within his palms. It grew slow but undeniable. He nearly wept. The sword would build itself upon void core, devouring obsidian like sorrow devours years. But dragonfire still needed, forging heat none but Drake could yield, and dragon seed blood to temper mercy. Jon bore dragon blood unseen, but had no dragons. Only one living dragon rumored sword. A she-beast glimpsed above shivering sound months past, scales pale gold, riderless. Sailors called her Sunset's Wraith. Rowan suggested sending word to Queen Alice's red priests. They kept captive dragon whelps hatched from stolen Syvas eggs. But alliance with fiery faith risked balance again. Instead they pressed on, praying old gods to stir chance. They crested last river valley under copper sky. Winterfell's towers rose, snow-dusted, banners snapping. Grey direwolf quartered with Stark Sunburst and Targaryen three-headed dragon, the mark of Jon's union of bloods. At gate, guards gaped at Sam and Rowan, mud-spattered, cloaks stiff with salt. They ushered them to Great Hall where Bran the Broken presided upon carved weirwood throne, eyes white-blue, skin pallid.
Sam knelt.
Rowan bowed fist to chest. Bran's gaze drifted past present, lips murmuring. The song thickens. From side dais stepped Sansa Stark, hair copper flame, bearing crown of snowmelt iron. She greeted Sam with warmth, Rowan with wary curiosity. Behind, steel-armored men parted as Jon Snow entered. Not as king, but ranger, black cloak embroidered silver pattern of intertwined wolf and dragon. Gray streaked curls near temples, but his eyes burned steady. Sam's words tumbled. Cylinder runes, balance, watcher, sort of absence building itself. He produced shard now half a short sword's length, edges hazy with devoured glass. Jon touched it. Fragment hummed, shimmering. Bran spoke then, voice distant yet clear. Star weeps soon. Comet's tail of blue fire crossing sky 2 fortnights hence. Under its tears the forge must roar. He turned blind eyes to Jon. You are Dragonseed Mercy. Your blood must temper steel, or doom's dirge repeats. Sansa stiffened. My brother's blood will not be spilled for riddles. But Jon raised hand. If a cut of flesh spares realm entire, I bleed, he said simply. He looked at Sam. Dragonfire we lack, but I know where to find heat deeper than Drake. Winterfell's crypt forges sit above molten vents once used by first kings to temper ice-edged swords. We will feed void steel there. Sam exhaled. Hope flickered. Plans unfurled. Gather smiths, shovel coal, line vent shafts. Rowan would blend obsidian slurry. Sam would chant Valyrian folds gleaned from lost tomes. Jon would anoint forming blade with blood. Whole castle bent to task like heart behind sternum. Night before forge, Sam wandered Godswood. Snow dusted weirwood branches. The heart tree's face wept red sap. Sam prayed. To old gods, new, to Maester Aemon's memory, to Gilly far to south. He asked mercy for all. Wind replied with hush of pages turning. Forge day dawned bleak blue. Chimneys belched iron-scented smoke visible miles. Knights kept watch on ramparts. Malasser Sellswords could still ride. Sam and Master Smith Tobo Mott stood over vent mouth, heat-licking faces. Shard hung suspended by tongs of Valyrian steel, only metal that would not melt. Obsidian crushed to powder fed through silver funnel. Shard absorbed, growing, twisting into full sword blank midnight black shot with pale stars. Jon bared forearm. Bran guided his wrist with gentle hand. Rowan muttered prayer of balance. With obsidian blue glass dagger, Jon slit skin. Blood fell drop by drop onto blade. Each drop hissed, seeping along fuller lines, vein-like red glow pulsing then fading to silver. Second drop, third. The sword sang, a hum like wind through distant wall. Outside, horn blasts echoed alarm. Sellsword column sighted riding from King's Road, banners of crowned sun blazing. Peristan perched upon wagon of torches. Malasser astride black destrier. Jon pressed bandage to wound, drew long claw. Rowan sprinted to walls. Smith Tobo plunged blade into vent mouth, heating till edges blazed violet. Sam recited Valyrian syllables from cylinder memory. Zoberlax jar Morgan, darkness given mercy. He and Tobo hammered, folding lightless steel upon itself, sparks like stars. Each strike shook forge. Castle stones thrummed. Outside, arrows flew. Grapnels clanged. Rowan fired from battlement, dropping ladder crews. Stark spears thrust through murder holes. Snow began to fall, thick, swirling, muffling screams. On final fold, Sam and Tobo quenched blade into basin of snowmelt water salted with Jon's blood. A column of steam erupted, swirling into Wolf's head before dissolving. Blade lay still, elegant, slender, mirror to night sky but rimmed with faint white glow. Sam lifted it, awe flooding marrow. A sword of absence, yet filled with starlight. He carried it to courtyard where battle raged. Malasser had breached gate with firepots, flames licking. Yet snow and gray wind company held. Sam thrust blade skyward. At once a hush spread. Flames guttered as if robbed of breath. Snow ceased midair, flakes hanging like motes. Every eye turned. Far overhead, dawn clouds tore as comets streaked, tail of green-blue fire painting heavens. A single star wept. The gate, somewhere beyond mortal sight, must have felt new covenant forging. Deep earth rumbled, stones humming with recognition. Malasser screamed, charging Sam. John leapt, intercepting. Longclaw met Sel's word axe. But Void Steel sword slid into John's other hand as if alive. He swung. Malasser's axe shaft parted, blade severing through steel like silk. Edge kissed air by Malasser's throat. Flames in courtyard extinguished, leaving twilight hush. John stayed stroke a hair from flesh. "Mercy," he said to shocked hush. Sam felt balance settle like snowflake on palm. Fragile, weightless yet infinite. Malasser dropped to knees. Peristan cowered in torchlight gloom. John lowered sword. "Go south," he commanded. "Tell lords of Hightower, dawn will not bow to gold." Sel's words fled.
Gate kriket kjøtt.
Snow resumed gentle fall. In Godswood later, Sam pressed sword hilt into witnesses' waiting hands. He had arrived unseen, mask between red leaves. "Balance restored," the witness murmured. "Yet watch must endure."
Sam nodded.
"We will keep covenant this time." The mask tilted. "Until men forget again." Rowan stood beside Sam, eyes steady. "Then branches shall remind." Weeks later, word reached from ravens. Seas calmed, aurora gentle, others still frozen beyond northern wastes. Malasser's patrons disgraced. Peristan stripped of chain. Gilly and all eras arrived at Winterfell safe, road perilous but hearts unbroken. Little Sam toddled through courtyard, chasing direwolf pup. In silent dawn Sam climbed King's Tower parapet, cylinder in hand. Ink inside rested at last, runes dormant. He uncorked, poured single drop upon stone. Letters seeped, etching new line along battlement. Where ice remembers and fire listens, dawn finds voice. Asterisk. He smiled, breathing cold air that tasted of hope. Story's heart still beat, slower now, content to linger across many years. But he would keep writing it word by word, vow by vow, so that when forgetting crept once more, pages would recall. Far in eastern sky, comet's tail faded, leaving only clean morning light. Samwell Tarly turned from parapet toward hall where friends awaited warm bread, ready to plan next chronicles. Balance shone thin as blade's edge, yet gleamed true, and he would guard its sharpness as Archmaester not of Citadel, but of remembering itself. PGSQL. The day after the Void Steel blade's forging, dawn broke crystalline over Winterfell's ramparts, and Samwell stood upon the battlements as the new sun spilled molten gold across fresh snow. The sword, yet unnamed, rested against the parapet beside him, blade hungrily sipping the light. It gave nothing back, its surface swallowing radiance until only a faint corona rimmed each edge, as though the steel itself remembered night and preferred it still. Below, the courtyard bustled with a caution that bordered on reverence. Blacksmith Tobo Mott hammered out smaller billets of obsidian alloy for arrowheads. Stark spearmen shuffled past the forge in silence, casting furtive glances at the blade whenever they dared. Even the direwolves padded soft-pawed, tails set low in unconscious deference. Sam leaned forward, breathing mist into the brightening air. His chain felt heavier this morning, a tangible reminder that his calling had shifted from scholar to custodian. Somewhere, perhaps beyond mortal reckoning, the gate felt the new balance, but nothing in that stillness promised permanence. And permanence, he knew, was a word the world could not hold for long. Balance demanded tending, like embers banked in a hearth. Let the hearth grow cold, and even stones forgot warmth. Footsteps approached, Jon Snow, cloak swirling. The cut on his forearm, bound in linen and weirwood sap paste, seeped no more, but Sam saw fatigue smudged beneath his friend's eyes. John had barely slept since the fight, responsibilities layered upon his shoulders as snow upon the boughs. He halted beside the sword, studying it. The wind teased a dark curl across his brow. "Have you named it yet?" Sam asked quietly. John shook his head. "Names are earned. It hasn't spoken its story." He placed fingers just shy of the hilt, as one might hover a hand over a silent hound to gauge its temper. The blade thrummed. Sam felt it in his molars. "But it listens," John murmured. "Some weapons only scream." They watched twin ravens circle the towers before banking southward. Bran's messengers, bound for unknown perches. Even birds had errands in this fragile dawn. John's voice dropped. "Bran dreams of cracks in the far north ice. Says shadows stir where the dead once gathered. No armies, just watchfulness." He exhaled. "Perhaps the others sense we locked them out again. Perhaps why measure the latch?" "Latches need keys," Sam replied, "and doors need watchmen." He traced a rune on the blade's fuller, finger chilled by its breathless cold. "The Watcher warned us men forget. We can't." John's gaze swept the horizon. "How?" He sounded like a commander too long at war, craving not rest but reason. Sam pulled a parchment from his satchel, a fresh transcription of the cylinder runes echoing across its margins. "We record, we teach, a new order, guardians of balance, not flame or ice." His cheeks warmed despite the wind. "A brotherhood of quills and blades both." John raised an eyebrow. "Maesters with swords? Why not?"
Sam smiled shyly.
"The Citadel forswore no weapons, they simply forgot them. Perhaps it once forged chains from steel and resolve alike." He looked to the south, imagining Old Town's towers. "We'll need Archmaesters who remember that learning can bite." Below in the yard, a shout cut the air, Rowan Snow drilling a ring of recruits. She moved like willow steel, axe-carving loops that force pupils to dance or die. With each block she spoke a phrase in the old tongue. They repeated, stumbling. Rowan insisted the words carried power, that speaking them while striking marked the blow with covenant echo. She said the phrases had no names in the common tongue because names could chain magic, and this magic must glide, free as falling snow. Soon Sam descended. He spent the morning with scribes, compiling a primer of the Covenant's lexicon. There were scores of glyphs yet to decode, but two already sang with clarity, one for memory kept, and another for mercy sheathed. He copied them on parchment after parchment, instructing rooks to carry these to every holdfast north of the neck. Even if folk could not read, they might carve shapes above doorways as warding or witness. Symbols he remembered from old tomes, often outlived languages. By midday a hush swept Winterfell. The King's Council convened in the Solar. Sansa Stark presided, robes of dusky blue brushed with silver threads that caught each flicker of hearthfire. Davos Seaworth, Lord of Blackmont now, leaned on the table edge, missing fingers drumming wood. Arya, silent as myth, stood half-shadowed near the casement, gray eyes unblinking. Bran's wheeled chair faced the far corner where the sword lay on a velvet cushion. Maester Wolkan fussed at its proximity to timber, but Bran waved him off with half a smile. Nearby perched the witness, raven mask lowered, but presence unmistakable, a ripple in air around a void. "Not conquest," Sansa was saying as Sam entered. "Stark banners will not march south for vengeance." She met Jon's eyes. "Yet Old Town threatens us still. If Hightower's coin can buy Sellswords once, it can again. We must answer with more than ravens." Davos cleared throat. "The free cities sniff opportunity. Word is Braavos claims lean over Old Town debts. Braavos despises dragons, true, but they worship balance on coin scales. Show them this." He tapped the newly forged treaty Sam had sketched, "and they might stay their hand." Arya spoke then, voice soft. "We should send faceless words, quiet assurances, threats less so." Her gaze flicked to the witness as though recognizing kin. Bran's pale pupils clouded, sight turned inward. "Paths converge on the Mander," he whispered. A ship of books, a tower of flame. The tide will choose. Sam took breath, offered counsel. Old Town's heart is knowledge. When knowledge fractures, fear grows and fear buys swords. We deny fear by offering truth. He unfurled a scroll, the Covenant's record translated into crisp common, though some lines remained vague where language failed. Spread this freely. When folk know what nearly woke, they may guard against it themselves. Sansa studied the scroll. Some will call it lies. Then let them, Jon answered. Truth doesn't falter because mouths twist it. He rose, pacing to the blade. We do not rule them, we invite them. The sword remains here, but its story travels. A knock interrupted. Ser Brienne entered, snow dusting her cloak. Riders from the south. Her voice held urgency. Lofty banners, crowned stag and fiery heart among them. Lord Edric Storm seeks audience. The hall swirled with murmurs. Edric, Robert's bastard, newly legitimized and heir to Storm's End, was ally yet independent. His arrival unsummoned signaled storms ahead. They greeted Edric in the small courtyard as daylight waned. He arrived with 10 knights armored but helms open. Tension crackled in their polished mail. Edric dismounted, dark hair tousled, Baratheon green eyes alight with wary respect. Grace, he addressed Jon, and Lady Sansa, my Queen of the North, he offered rolled parchment. From Queen Alice Karstark, Regent at Storm's End. Sansa broke seal. Alice wrote in precise script, acknowledging rumors of new alliances between ice and ancient frost, requesting parley to safeguard the realm. She sought witness of the sword and treaty, offering in exchange guardianship of the southern seas. Storm's End fleet pledged to defend northern coasts from Ironborn or Lysene opportunists. Jon's brow furrowed. Politics had never been his love. He turned to Sam. Can we trust this?
Sam shrugged.
Balance thrives on trust, echoing the witness's earlier words. So they bid Edric inside. Over supper of root broth and smoked trout, Edric spoke frankly. Rumors of maesters forging sorcery unsettle Stormlanders. Priests of R'hllor whisper this blade steals fire's birthright. The faith dreads new idols. My queen believes only sunlight will chase such specters. Show them the truth, she asks. Sam considered. Truth is easier to doubt than rumor, but we must try. He invited Edric to the forge at dawn to witness the sword's forging history. They'd recreate its growth with spare shard, albeit on smaller scale. That night Sam sat by dim candle, copying step-by-step diagrams. Obsidian fed, void core expanding, dragonseed blood annealing. He left spaces for alchemical equations he had yet to derive, for no treatise existed on star metal. Yet he sensed pattern. Absence devoured presence until equilibrium birthed new matter, an alchemy of extremes. Candle gutters. Outside, wind howled. He heard Rowan's voice on the rampart, drilling the night guard in the old tongue phrases, Talar ia Morgulus, watcher for all must die. The words unsettled him. Death braided to duty. An echo answered Rowan, Bran's voice, thin but carrying, Morgul Jagan, death undragoned. The courtyard fell silent. Sam glimpsed Bran's chair in snowy moonlight, pupils opalescent. Raven wings beat overhead. The witness stood behind Bran, mask lifted, perhaps murmuring secrets. Even in silence, conversation wove between them.
Sam shivered.
Dawn spectacle. Edric Storm, flanked by knights, watched as Sam and Tobo coaxed the spare void shard to lengthen. Rowan dripped her own blood, northern but not dragon seed. To prove principle, the metal hissed yet refused to drink, edges dulling. Jon added a single drop from his earlier wound. Shard brightened, lengthened a hair. Edric's eyes widened. 7 take me, true sorcery.
Sam wiped sweat.
No, my lord, just nature remembered. He allowed Edric to hold shard in gloved hands. Edric jerked at the hum, but swiftly chased fear. I see why some mistrust, he admitted. But Storm's End stands with truth. Parley succeeded. Edric pledged a written accord to deliver the treaty across the Stormlands. and to sow its gospel among lawler priests who feared only what they could not name. In return, Winterfell would send copies of the Covenant and instructions for ward carvings. Stormlanders, raised on storm gods and stubborn will, loved carving talismans into their ship beams. For a heartbeat, Sam felt tide turning toward peace. Yet balance seldom lay upon calm seas. Raven returned from White Harbor bearing grim tidings. The Braavosi Sea Lord's envoy anchored near Old Town, negotiating new loans with Lord Manfred Hightower, now head of house after his father's sudden coughing death. Bravos demanded concession, control of Citadel's forehall as collateral. Peristan, stripped of chain but vindictive, lobbied for sale in exchange for free trade. Sam paced the library. If Bravos claim Citadel, they'll plunder vaults, hunger for secrets, twist truths into profit. The Covenant fragments still their risk misuse. He slammed palm on map of the Reach. We must secure them first. John massaged temple. Would the Conclave heed you? You fled. I have no chain of Valyrian steel, Sam murmured. Yet I carry something larger, witness of what we saved. Perhaps some will listen. Bran wheeled closer, gaze focused. We cannot storm Old Town, but ravens of memory travel faster than ships. We send more truth wider still. Let the small folk ask why their high lords bargain with Braavosi for secrets that protect them all. Sansa suggested allies within. Archmaester Vaelin still lingered, fragile but wise. Maester Rain at the Hightower's observatory. Novices disgruntled by Pereston's purge passed truth into their hands. Jon nodded. But infiltration risks your head. I'll go, Arya said quietly. Faces opened doors. Silence thickened. Sam felt chill. Arya had danced with death, worn many visages. She could slip through shadows unseen. Jon wanted to object, but knew futility. Instead, he clasped her forearm. Then take Ghost, he said. He sees more than men. Arya smiled, a curved blade of moonlight, and agreed. That night Arya departed with 2 outriders and the White Direwolf, rowing down White Knife under starless sky. Sam stood on dock until their lantern disappeared. Heart tugged between gratitude and dread. Weeks blurred. Snowfields deepened. Winterfell's walls glittered with frostfangs. Sam labored day and night. He composed treatises, history of the Covenant, the rhythms of balance, on the temper of absence. Scribes multiplied copies. Couriers rode south, east, west like dandelion seeds on wind. Gilly arrived at last, cheeks rosy, little Sam toddling by her side gripping Rowan's spare dagger scabbard. Sam embraced them until ribs creaked. That night they spoke long near hearth while children drowsed on furs. Gilly told of quiet villages reciting the old tongue phrases at dusk, of farmers carving night tree runes above barn doors, of septons preaching caution rather than condemnation after reading Sam's scrolls. Sam felt embers of hope glow, yet each letter from Arya grew darker. She wrote of factions within Hightower, some eager to expose Pereston's greed, others coveting Braavosi favor. She tailed Melasser through catacombs where warlocks once brewed blackfire, overheard plans to replicate void steel using captured mage-smiths chained in dungeons. The method failed, shards turning to ash, but casualties meant little to profiteers. Then Arya's ravens ceased. Days lengthened. Anxiety seeped like meltwater through stone. Rowan volunteered sortie south, but Jon forbade until more word. Snow fell heavier, wet and relentless. During one night watch, horns blared from outer gate. 3 riders staggered in, reeking of smoke. Novices from Old Town bearing burned scars. They had fled as Braavosi Sellswords overran the Honeywine Keys. They carried a severed chain link of Valyrian steel, Archmaester Vaelin's last gift. Vaelin was dead. Conclave fractured. Peristan enthroned by coin. Sam's hands shook as he cradled the link. Its sheen, once polished by centuries of trust, dulled with ash. He stared at Rowan. Enough parchment. We need presence. Council convened. Bran's eyes whitened. He grasped table edge. Fire rises to challenge ice anew. We must douse, not with water, but with memory. He suggested pilgrimage, not invasion, to Old Town. Sam, John, the witness, and the new sword. Show populace the blade, not as weapon but as living charter. Inspire novices, shame lords, shine lantern in gloom. Sansa worried for northern safety if John left. Edric Storm, still guest, offered hostages. He would remain as friend at Winterfell. Stormlanders would patrol coastline. That freed John. Preparations hummed. Gilly insisted on accompanying Sam. She refused to cower behind walls again. Rowan selected a cadre of 20. Starks, wildlings, ironborn deserters loyal to Theon's memory. Diverse faces embodying new covenant. They set south as sun returned faintly, seeds of spring in the air albeit months early. Sam attributed warmth to subtle shifting of balance, old cycles bending. Their column traveled river trails blanketed by thaw. At each hamlet folk greeted sword-bearers with awe. Children traced night tree sigils in dirt. Elders pressed simple gifts, salt pork, beeswax candles. Sam recorded every gesture on vellum, proof the story rooted. Yet rumors of dark omens followed. Fishermen sighted mists glowing green by moonlight. Ravens fell dead on rooftops. Some swore Hightower alchemists scorched the sky with wildfire experiments. Fear walked ahead, a herald with icy breath. Near Highgarden ruins, they encountered refugees. Novices garbed in half-burnt robes, one clutching scroll case charred. Inside was a torn page, schematics of a sphere lined with glyphs, an amplifier meant to shatter ice with concentrated dragonfire.
Same stomach twisted.
If Peristan could not make void steel, he meant to break balance instead. They increased pace. At dusk 3 days later, Old Town's lighthouse crowned horizon. Flame atop swaying with unnatural color, tinged sickly aquamarine. Braavosi warships ringed the bay. Smoke drifted from docks. Jon convened war council in an abandoned orchard east of city walls. Strategy: infiltrate citadel under cover of night. Reveal sword in forehall before conclave and Braavosi envoys at dawn assembly. The witness would speak covenant in tongues no man could deny. Sam would translate. Rowan's cadre would secure exits, prevent Sellsword treachery. Ghost would prowl library shadows for Arya, if she lived. They split after moonrise. Fog low, taste of salt and alchemy. Sam walked beside Witness, heart hammering as the raven mask caught starlight. "Will words suffice?" he whispered. Mask inclined. Words birthed worlds. If worlds die, words will resurrect them. Not comfort, but strength. They scaled garden walls, slipped across cloisters. Citadel corridors, once silent, now rang with boots. Yet novices sympathetic to Valen guided them through scriptoriums, smuggled under robes. Near Forehall gates, Sam glimpsed malachite sconces burning green, wildfire lanterns unstable. Malasser's plan to ignite library? They paused behind marble pillar. Inside, conclave assembled. Archmaesters wearing half-melted chains. Gold links replaced by Braavosi silvers. Manfred Hightower presided, gloating beside Peristan. Braavosi envoy announced, "Today, the Citadel joins the Iron Bank Covenant. Knowledge for coin, protection for yield." Applause scattered, then doors thudded wide. Rowan's cadre strode in, weapons sheathed but visible. Gasps erupted. Jon advanced, sword bared but inverted, tip pointed skyward. The witness followed, cloak stirring though no wind blew. Sam's voice carried, "Knowledge is not coin to pawn." The cylinder translation in his hands, he began reciting covenant, line by line, projecting words that echoed off vaulted domes. At each phrase, witness repeated in rasping ancient tongue. The blade pulsed, runes flaring silver across floor. Archmaester rain rose, tears shining. Others shifted, chains clinking. But Peristan sneered, motioning Sellswords. They drew crossbows. Rowan's cadre unfolded like iron petals, axes ready. Hightower shouted, "Arrest them!" Braavosi envoy withdrew alabaster orb, the dragonfire sphere. Wick flickered. Sam's heart froze. Witness stepped forward, palm raised. Orb's flame sputtered, then died, absorbed as air drank candle. Mask eyes glowed, voice thundered. Balance will not burn for greed. Green lanterns guttered to ash. A hush filled all. Peristan sagged, lips trembling. He saw not mask but judgment. He fell to knees, chain clattering, begging forgiveness that only dust answered. The conclave knelt next, one by one, like wheat before gale. Bravosi envoy paled, dropping orb, cracked, inert. Witness spoke softer now, telling maesters of covenant's rebirth and dare of forgetting. He proffered Sam's treatise. Rain received it as relic. Tears splashed parchment. Cheeks flushed. Sam realized the citadel's soul still breathed. Lanterns rekindled amber. Cell's words laid arms. John reversed blade, offering hilt to any who would carry memory instead of war. None dared touch, yet all reached with eyes. In corner, slight figure slipped from shadow. Arya, visage smeared with soot, ghost at heel. She winked at Sam. Had to silence a few tongues first, she whispered. Relief left him weak. Outside, bells tolled dawn. Librarians filed into streets, chattering of wonders. Refugees returned to quays. Wildfire smoke cleared. Lord Manfred fled by river barge. Bravosi ships weighed anchor, uncertain. In Forehall, the conclave voted. Peristan stripped. Rain named seneschal. They offered Sam the Valyrian steel link of memory lost with Valen. Final piece to complete his chain. Sam accepted, feeling cold weight warm against chest, promise binding. He spoke, I stand Archmaester of remembering, yet my seat is not here. Travels where forgetting breeds. Let the citadel open vaults, share truth, and forge guardians anew. Chains can hold keys, but keys must open doors, not lock them. Applause swelled, sincere, rising like sunrise. Weeks later, newly christened Order of the Balance. Scribes, warriors, healers, departed Old Town, journeying to every kingdom. Ghosted ravens soared carrying treaties. Maesters once timid now lectured villagers on covenant runes. Bravosi, impressed by stability, signed compact to protect shipping lanes instead of plundering. At Winterfell, Sam reunited with Gilly under budding apple trees, the early spring. Little Sam chased butterflies while direwolves dozed. In Godswood, the void steel blade rested against Heart Tree, sap soaking into fuller, roots humming acceptance. They named it Dawnbringer at Bran's suggestion, though Sam privately called it Mercyforge. Bran summoned Sam one quiet evening. Will turns, he mused, pale fingers stroking direwolf pup. You think tale done, yet stories spin beyond pens. He pointed north. Ice remembers still, other hearts dormant, not dead. Watch, witness, and remind.
Samwell.
I will, your grace. He looked up at swaying leaves. Stories live while someone tells them. Later he sat by brazier with parchment blank and quill poised. Words leaned on his tongue, not to record victory but to chart vigilance. Harvest cycles of memory, festivals of balance, songs for children to chant while skipping rope. He imagined a world where no scholar would have to dig through dust to uncover warnings, because warnings would stand tall as signposts at every crossroads. Gilly crept beside, laying head on his shoulder. Write it gentle, she whispered. World hurts enough. Let words mend. He kissed her brow, heart mellow. He began. Asterisk where ice remembers and fire listens, dawn finds voice. May those who walk between hold that voice steady, that neither frost nor flame drown the songs of living hearts. Asterisk. Quill scratched until moon sank. Sam wrote of farmers sowing night tree seeds that bloomed pale blossoms under northern lights, of ships carving covenant rune into their keels before setting sail, of distant Karth merchants who traded silks dyed in shades mirroring the sword's edge. Somewhere beyond wall of time, perhaps others dreamed under glassy airs, their memories of guardianship stirring with new lullabies. Sam hoped they heard. Years would pass, dust would gather, languages would bend. Yet he trusted children would point to runes above hearths and ask elders, "What means this?" And elders, thanks to scrolls, songs, and duty, would answer, On last stroke of Candle's life, Sam signed his chronicle. Samwell Tarley, once coward, always keeper. He set cool down, extinguished flame, and stepped into courtyard where dawn painted stones pink. Rowan trained recruits there, axes flashing. John watched from parapet, cloak a black sunrise. Gilly's laughter drifted as little Sam fed apples to a shaggy pony. Balance hung, slender as spider's thread, between past and tomorrow. But so long as hearts beat and quills scratched, it would hold. Sam inhaled cold air heavy with the promise of spring and walked forward, ready to remind the world forever why dawn mattered.